Good morning, friends. It's been a while. Today I woke up at 5:30 a.m., half an hour before my alarm, because there was so much I felt like I needed to do, and I didn't believe that I had enough time in the day to do it. Because today is the day that I begin going on tour with the Killers. That's what I've been calling it. Going to as many shows as I can, which is quite a lot of shows in the UK and Ireland this summer, and just having the best time, to be honest. Seeing friends who I know from the shows, and just like watching my favourite band night after night. It's like a real privilege. Let me just say that up front. It's an absolute privilege. It is also just the joy of my life. Let me also acknowledge that there is not a more, first video back after a while that could be more millennial than like a get ready with me type video, but I love them. I find them really comforting. I also just love being out and about. I tried to film a video sitting down straight to camera, and I really feel like phones and the amount we look at our own faces through, I don't even really use filters, but just through different lenses, has really made it so challenging for me to make a sit down video and to just like have a sense of my own face, which is not something, as discussed previously on this channel, I have historically been super comfortable with. But as I said in therapy later today, actually, in the past for me, in the future for you watching this video, I looked at my face when I was editing that first video I tried to make, and I just thought in the most judgmental, mean terms, wow, she's let herself go. And it was so unkind, and I was in a really dark place about it, and I feel loads better now. But it was a tough one. And at the same time, I didn't want that to win, I didn't want that to be the thought that I carried with me. So I kept trying to make something, and this is what I have made, following myself around. At this point, I have packed everything for my trip, but I also packed a bag to go to this meeting. I'm reading Bonding, a free proof copy of which I got from Picador, which is kind of a speculative fiction, brave new world between a drug and a dating app. I really enjoyed it. And Leicester Square is an absolute nightmare many days. But in the morning at 8 something a.m, it's pretty quiet. I also had to, get a little shot of that Josh O'Connor at the Curzon for you. You're welcome. Everything went really to time, but I was still feeling frantic. I think it was the frantic awareness that there was so much that had to get done that day. And to be honest, I think the excitement of knowing I'm seeing that's one of my favorite restaurants, that's why I took that shot. The excitement of knowing I was seeing the Killers has been experienced through apprehension. So I went into this meeting at Soho House, which doesn't let you film inside. The meeting finished like 4 hours later. It was fantastic. And then I had to take a bus and get on my way back to my place via the library to drop things off. That's where I get all of my tortilla flour and Mexican supplies, all of the essentials. I just thought I wanted to note that. But things were going pretty much to plan, and it was still pretty early in the day. I still had to get back, take this library book back, repack the last little bits from my meeting earlier that day, and then get a Vinted thing out, and then get to therapy by 2 p.m. So it was like a lot of running around. I feel like this video involves a lot of me stomping around in my cowboy boots, but to be honest, that is an honest depiction of my life. To be honest. The other thing that I like about this, looking back at it, and I'm recording this voiceover after having edited most of this video, is that I feel like you get a good sense of like how I live, how my home is. I've been thinking a lot about the question of home, from so many different directions, I think, more than anything, because it's who gets to have a home and who has the ability to go back to that home, not just, in a year or 2 years, but go back and see a home that is still standing. I've been thinking about that a lot, but that's a topic for another video. At this point, I've packed my Vinted thing. I managed to catch the in-post guy just as he was picking up the packages, so that went straight in. I then filmed myself going back to the tube, but I think I filmed this upside down. So this is a bird's eye view of me rolling my suitcase in. But yeah, it was frantic, but I got there in time. But you know, when you get down to the platform and it says 10 minutes to the next train and it just feels like the end of the world, London girls get this. But time was going well. Anyway, so in that therapy discussion, which I'm currently running my way to, lifting my luggage upstairs because, you know, London transport is still really inaccessible, I was talking a lot about how joy, especially in my most like depressive, anxious state, joy feels irresponsible. Like the fact that I'm going to see the Killers feels deeply irresponsible, and so there has to be some kind of self-punishment for it. I took a shot of myself before therapy because often lately I've been crying a lot in therapy, and I thought it'd be funny if you did like a before and after, but actually I didn't cry this time, and I had this really good conversation about joy as feeling irresponsible money-wise, irresponsible time-wise. I have this sense of like the public. We talk about that a lot in therapy, the spectre of like the public, and I think a lot of that comes from having made videos on here for 18 years, inconsistently, but for 18 years, and lived a public life and being surrounded by public people, and not in a super celeb way or anything like that, but I do have a certain awareness of the public that I imagine more and more people are sharing at this time, as our lives become in some ways more public, by our consent and by not. And I think about that a lot, but I have to be aware of when I'm judging myself and imagining that as everyone's opinion of me, and how I take that into my decision making and how I treat myself. Because I think another thing that came up is like sometimes I'm the first person to mock myself when I talk about going to see all these Killers gigs, but I fucking love it. Like this is, yeah, it's a joy, it's a delight, it's one of my favorite things to do, and as my therapist said, it's play. So this is where I'm going to leave you today. This is me right before getting on my plane, 12 hours before this video began, and a few hours before when I'm recording this now. Thanks for being with me.